Dawn breaks over the rugged land of Burkina Faso, and with it arrives a message from Washington, short, precise, and loaded with menace. 48 hours. That is all the United States grants. Hand over 60% of the nation's gold, and oil revenues, or be cut off from the dollar system entirely. The terms are brutal. Accounts frozen, contracts torn apart, payments collapsed, no negotiations, no appeals. It is a cold ultimatum signed in Washington, but meant to break Ouagadougou. Yet as the clock began to tick in the American capital, another clock was wound in the heart of Africa. President Ibrahim Traoré, the soldier who became head of state, responded with his own decree, 72 hours. In that span, every gold mine, every oil barrel, every license and export would fall under national law. The military would deploy to guard reserves. Exports would be frozen, data rerouted to a command center, and foreign companies brought under direct state review. No retreat, no compromise, no hesitation. And so, two clocks began to run in parallel, one counting down from Washington, threatening paralysis, and one launched from Ouagadougou, declaring sovereignty over the land's resources. The tension was not theoretical. For ordinary citizens, questions became immediate. If the dollar vanished from markets, who would pay for bread? If banks froze wages, how would miners survive? If fuel convoys were turned back, what would drivers pour into their tanks? And for the wider world, another question loomed. Could a small African nation defy the most powerful currency on earth? Or was this countdown simply the measure of an inevitable collapse? This was not theater. These were signed directives. Convoys stopped at checkpoints, drones circling above mining sites, test transfers blocked in global banking systems. It was reality unfolding, hour by hour, broadcast live to a continent and a world watching. The question was no longer whether Burkina Faso would resist, but whether resistance could hold. Washington's weapon was not military this time, it was the dollar itself. Nearly 90% of global trade is settled in U.S. currency. And exclusion means suffocation. Imports of fuel, food, and medicine would halt. Diaspora remittances, worth hundreds of millions annually, would vanish. Overnight, hospitals could run out of antibiotics, schools could miss teacher salaries, farmers could lose fertilizer imports. The ultimatum, then, was not merely about resources. It reached into kitchens, classrooms, and hospital wards, designed to break the spine of daily life. Analysts noted that this was the same weapon once used on Iran, Venezuela, and Russia. Today, Burkina Faso had been chosen as the latest target, but Traoré's decree shifted the battlefield. Within hours, officials appeared at mines demanding access to servers. Convoys of trucks were frozen at roadblocks, and paperwork was reissued under new national templates. Foreign security contractors were told to stand down and replaced by Burkinabe troops. The government had prepared for this moment. Regulations had already been tightened, certain permits revoked, oversight centralized. When the 72-hour decree was signed, enforcement was immediate. The message to citizens and to the world was clear. Burkina Faso would not wait to be dictated to. It would act still. The fear was real. Radio stations carried competing voices. International media predicted collapse. In markets, shopkeepers counted shrinking piles of cash, and drivers queued at depots, unsure if fuel would flow. Yet amidst the anxiety, a fragile pride emerged. The rules now came from their own capital, not from a foreign power. Miners continued reporting for duty, traders adjusted prices cautiously, and families whispered that at least for once, the decision belonged to them. For many, fear transformed into ownership. However fragile, by the 30th hour, tension deepened. A fire at a fuel depot revealed sabotage. Officials were removed, and foreign-linked accounts traced. At the 32nd hour, test transfers through New York were blocked. Washington's ultimatum shifting from threat to reality. Banks slowed, salaries stalled, wires returned, rejected. The arteries of finance tightened. And first time, the blockade bit. Inside the command center, contingency measures activated. Regional barter systems with Mali and Niger. Gold-backed credits for miners. Emergency trade routes improvised. Clumsy but functional, these kept oxygen flowing into an economy under siege. At the 45th hour, foreign headlines declared collapse. Yet in Ouagadougou, miners received gold-backed notes. Convoys from Sahel partners arrived with grain, and families saw bread still delivered to markets. Crude, fragile, but still breathing. By the 50th hour, sabotage attempts were foiled, arrests broadcast nationwide, and armored patrols guarded depots. The decree was not merely a government order, no. It was defended by citizens themselves. Villagers patrolled depots, miners guarded stockpiles, engineers improvised drone networks to monitor convoys. A collective enforcement took shape. Then, at the 60th hour, the story turned. Trucks from Mali and Niger crossed the border, carrying grain, fuel, and medicine. Cameras captured the convoy, entering the capital under escort. Crowds cheered, and regional leaders stood beside Traore in silent solidarity. No speeches were needed. The image itself declared a new reality. Burkina Faso was not isolated. It was defended. By the 72nd hour, Washington's ultimatum had expired, but Burkina Faso had not collapsed. Fragile, yes. Strained? Undeniably. But unbroken. The dollar blockade was real, its pain visible in rising food prices and blocked transfers. Yet so too was the resilience of a nation refusing to yield. Two clocks had collided, one backed by the global dollar system, the other by the will to reclaim sovereignty. And in that collision, history was written. Viewers, you are not watching theater. You are witnessing the live confrontation between empire and independence, between the old order of financial dominance and a fragile but fierce sovereignty struggling to be born. Washington counted down 48 hours to submission. Ouagadougou counted down 72 to sovereignty. One demanded surrender, the other declared defiance. Which clock will history remember? If your heart beats for Africa's freedom, if you believe sovereignty must be defended no matter the cost, say it aloud now. Africa bows to no one.